Hey guys, it's Annie. Welcome to my channel. We're gonna be talking about unusual deaths, right? So the first people that we're gonna talk about is an actual family. They're the Jamison family. I know most people have heard of this. I know I have. I'm gonna insert a picture over here, and if most people, if you recognize that picture, then you automatically know what the story's about. This family, I'll be reading off my phone because I have little notes written down, and just, you know, Bobby, Sherilyn, Madison, Jamison. They went on vacation. So they just went on a drive, and they went to a certain location just trying to, you know, relax or whatever. They took some pictures, and that picture that I showed you at the beginning is one of the pictures that they took. People have different conspiracies or theories on what happened to them. Either it had ranges from meth and witchcraft, and it's just a lot of different stuff that people think happened to them. The family disappeared together October 8th, 2009 under mysterious circumstances. First, the family dog was found in a truck. Like, the dog was basically dying of malnutrition, and that kind of sparked a lot of red flags. They were kind of like, you know, where's the owners of the dog? So they went trying to look for them. What makes this case so much weirder is inside the truck, IDs, cell phones, wallets, and almost $32,000 in cash. Some people are speculating that, oh, they were trying to run away, fake their deaths or something of that nature. So I'm gonna read off some of the popular theories that people think happened, which is the one I just said, that they were faking their own deaths. Some people said they went to the witness protection program. People said they were involved in drugs. They committed a group suicide. They were killed by a cult, and it's just so many different things. And people think that the parents were involved in drugs. They did meth or sold crack, or it was stated that the Jamisons had visited local pastor on several occasions, saying they had been seeing spirits in their home. After their disappearance was known, and they were going through the Jamison's house, they found like a witch Bible and tons of witchcraft books. So that's why people were thinking that maybe their house was haunted, and they were trying to do a little black magic or something, witchcraft, to try to find out what was happening, and maybe it drove them all crazy and they just committed a group suicide. I don't know. They went missing in 2009, and their bodies were found in 2013, nearly 4 years after they had originally gone missing. Their remains were unrecognizable at first because they had decomposed so much. Their remains were actually found less than 3 miles from the pickup truck. I don't know, I mean, like, from what I've read, their bodies weren't like buried or anything. They're just like, you know, out. So if the police actually did a thorough search, possibly they should have found them, right? They should have found them. I think that's what, you know, that's just my opinion. And then some people think that the Jamison family were just killed. So the picture that I showed at the beginning of the little girl, their daughter, people think that was taken by the possible killer. And they found that picture of the little girl, and they were kind of like, she looked kind of, I don't know, she looked kind of irritated, fussy, mad, didn't want to take the picture. So maybe that they were being held hostage. Their possible killer took the picture and then killed them all. And that picture was found on Bobby Jamison's cell phone that had been left in the truck. So they just know that that's the last place that they were, and they don't know what happened to them. They don't know if it was a group suicide. They'll probably never know. Okay, so the next case we're gonna talk about is a 2009 taconic parkway crash, July 26th, 2009. Shortly after 1:30, maybe like 1:35, possibly, you know, 1:32, whatever. This woman named Diane and 5 of her passengers were hit in a head-on collision with an oncoming SUV. So the woman Diane, 4 of her children were killed on impact, and all the people in the SUV died on impact as well. This is where it gets kind of weird. It driven at least 2 miles in the wrong direction on that parkway. So that's kind of what contributed to the crash, because she was driving in the wrong direction. Supposedly she was driving up to 60 miles per hour, and after the crash happened, in Diane's autopsy, it shows that her alcohol blood level was pretty high. It was higher than the limit. It was, I think, 0.19, and you know, that's obviously high. So based on her height and weight, she had an equivalent of 10 drinks in her system, as well as a chemical from marijuana. So Diane and all of her passengers, her children, they were leaving from a campground. I don't exactly know the time, but they were leaving our campground at possibly like 9:30 in the morning. She appeared to be sober at that time. At 9:30 in the morning, she appeared to be sober. She ended up stopping for gas. She ended up going to McDonald's to get something to eat and her. She stopped at a gas station for painkillers, I think at 11 a.m. and they didn't have any. Around 11:30, she called her brother and told him that there was a delay in traffic. And about 10 minutes later, she called her brother, 10:30, saying there was a delay in traffic. 10 minutes later, she parked her car and she was, you know, pulled over on the highway, throwing up but supposedly she was sober at this time. So around 1 p.m. her brother received a call from her cell phone. Diane called her brother, but instead of her brother answering the phone, it was one of her nieces. The little girl claims that their aunt Diane was having trouble speaking and seeing and said that she was disorientated. Brother told her to stay put, so the brother told her to stay put. Diane and people in the car were parked on the side of her shoulder, parked on the shoulder, because she was feeling sick. She couldn't see. He said he would come get her. No more calls were answered when placed to Diane. Her cell phone was later found abandoned nearby. I put the picture of what the car looked like after it got hit by that SUV. I'll put it over here so you guys can see it. At 11:30, multiple witnesses reported a minivan driving recklessly the wrong way down the parkway, and it ended in a fatal crash. The autopsy was supposed to, you know, it was simple, you know, it was understandable. It was, you know, it made sense. But the timeline, people could argue about the timeline. I even me just reading what I've read and doing research on it, the timeline doesn't really match as well as I think it should. Police did their research, and supposedly Diane would have never driven it like that with her children in the car. She would have never had so many drinks and had her kids in the car or her family members in the car. That was something that she wouldn't do. That wasn't like her. She wouldn't do that. So it obviously raised a lot of red flags for them. As the police, you know, did their research, got the timeline ready, there only a 30-minute gap between Diane behaving normally and between the time she began to act strange. She herself even claimed that she couldn't see or figure out where she was going. People are asking the question of rather she could have gotten drunk that fast, and if so, wouldn't she understand what was happening and why she was having trouble seeing? And then a lot of people were saying, why did she get back on the road when he said he was gonna come and get her and to just take it easy, I'm gonna come get you? Why did she get rid of her cell phone? I mean, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of different questions we need to ask ourselves about this case. I don't know what could have happened. I mean, I don't think people can get drunk that fast. It's so sad because she was sounding like she was so confused. She was like, I don't know where I'm going. I can't see. There's a documentary about the case. It's called There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane. No one really will probably ever know what happened in that minivan except for the sole survivor. One person survived, and it was her son named Brian. All he could seem to remember is the quote, "Mommy's head hurts, mommy can't see," end quote. So I'm gonna talk about one more case. Here's a picture. This is Dorothy Jane Scott. This happened in 1980s. Dorothy Jane Scott was a 32-year-old single mother. She'd been getting unsolicited anonymous phone calls at her place of work. She couldn't recognize the voice, and supposedly the voice would be like, "Oh, I love you," and then it could be like, it could change to, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you." So she was freaking out. You know, she didn't know what was going on. She was like, "Why do people keep on calling me? I don't know who this is." At one time, the caller told her that he was following her and described details to her of her day-to-day to prove it. So of course, Dorothy was afraid. She was scared. She began doing karate and boxing and trying to fight so that if something happened, she would be able to protect herself. She even considered buying a handgun, but neither of those things saved her. On May 28th, employee from the ER treated someone suffering from a spider bite. Dorothy left the lobby to pull her car around the front. Co-workers waited for her to arrive back. While Dorothy was pulling her car around the front, all her co-workers were kind of waiting for her to come back, and they noticed it was taking a bit too long for her to come back. When they did finally spot her car, it was traveling a high rate of speed and approximately took a sharp right out of the parking lot. They were shocked. They were so confused on why Dorothy was acting strange. Why was she driving out of the parking lot at swift speeds? Like, what was going on? What was wrong? Was something wrong that I need to call somebody or whatever? They just thought that maybe she had to go get her son or there was some type of emergency. Supposedly hours later, Dorothy's car was found 10 miles away from an alley, and it was burning and abandoned. There was no trace of Dorothy to be found. Dorothy's family were advised to be quiet about the case due to the media. They weren't supposed to really talk about it. You know, they didn't want the media to be all up in their face about it, so they just kept quiet about it. After a week went by and she was still missing, her mother got a phone call, and the person said, quote, "Are you related to Dorothy Scott?" end quote. And she replied, "Yes." And this person specifically said, quote, "I've got her," end quote, and then hung up. So the taunting calls like kept happening for weeks on end. The same person that was taunting Dorothy was now taunting her family, and he would tease about having Dorothy, keeping her hostage. He even confessed to a radio station. He said, quote, I killed her. I killed Dorothy Scott. She was my love," end quote. He had released details about the case and the murder that hasn't been released by the public or the press yet. So the police were trying to find this man or this person in general. So here's something that he mentioned, the fact that Dorothy was wearing a red scarf that day or the fact that one of her co-workers was treating a spider bite, and supposedly the cause ended in 1984. Almost 4 months later, a construction worker discovered both dog and human bones while he was working, had a turquoise ring next to it, and a watch that stopped on May 29th, 1980, 12:30 a.m. And Dorothy's mother identified the ring as having belonged to her daughter Dorothy. A week after the bones had been positively identified as Dorothy Scott, an announcement was run in the local newspaper. Her family got 2 more phone calls from the same mysterious caller, only asking in an annoying voice, quote unquote, "Is Dorothy home?" end quote. Her killer was never identified. Even to this day, no one knows whatever happened to Dorothy. No one knows the truth about Diane. No one knows about what happened to the Jamison family. So if you guys know anything about any of those families, just call your local police. That's the cases that I want to talk about today. And I'll talk to you guys later. And if you guys have any suggestions on what videos you guys would like to see next, please comment them down in the comments, or email me or message me on any of my social media links. That's fine. If you guys have a suggestion, let me know, and I would certainly look it up, and I would certainly do my research, and I would certainly make a video about it. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.